NieR Replicant version 1.224744871139, being a remaster of the 11-year-old PS3 and Xbox 360 game just titled NieR. Chances are, if you're curious of this game or heard of this game, you know about NieR Automata, and you want to know if the prequel is worth checking out. Well, as far as the story experience, as many people point out as the best quality of this game, it absolutely delivers. This is one of the best narratives in a video game I've ever played, so creatively using the medium of video games to tell a story a different way. If you're a fan of Undertale or Majora's Mask because you're edgy and you like its themes on hope, despair, and humanity, then you have to experience this game. Yeah, it's basically Undertale because it's a bullet hell action game that has music that slaps. And oh my god. Does the music slap? The second thing you probably heard about the NieR game that everyone talks about is the quality of its music. If you're a fan of very grandiose music, then oh my god, the soundtrack. It just stays with you. That's the best way I can explain it. It just stays with you. And again, the music somehow perfectly encapsulates the feelings of hope and despair. It's just brilliant. This whole game is brilliant in terms of storytelling and music. It gets a solid 10 out of 10 in both those categories, like near perfection. The entire soundtrack of the original game got remade, or really almost reorchestrated. The original vocalist Emmy Evans returns, working on both the original NieR and NieR Automata, and now to re-deliver her performance 11 years later for this game. There is so much criticism when it comes to the music for this remaster, and at first I thought people were just nitpicking, but after hearing some side-by-sides, there's definitely a more emphasis on just the vocals in the new remaster, making it a point to only make the vocalist the main melody of the track. Those damn drums, it's a shame. It can also completely change the character of a track. Take the track that plays in the junk heap, where in the original there was still percussions and a digitized voice as a secondary melody to the vocals, to have the whole, steampunk robotic aesthetic that's just completely missing in the remake. Regardless, overall, the music is just so much cleaner in the remaster or the remake of the songs. It's fully orchestrated, so there's a lot less synth or MIDI, and that's probably why the percussion on these tracks feel a lot less, compressed. It's the same composer that's been around for all of Yoko Taro's games. Keiichi Okabe returns to remaster, in some cases recompose these tracks. I think that both the original and remaster's soundtrack now each have their own individual appeal. The remaster definitely goes for a more softer feeling, so both games got a 10 out of 10 soundtrack. If you're coming from Automata and are worried about the gameplay, since with me talking about gameplay last, many people criticize the original NieR for the gameplay being its weakest point. And I definitely agree, the game is a storytelling masterpiece, but the gameplay is subpar. For the remaster, Toy Logic stepped in and completely revamped the combat system. For the sake of this review, after fully completing this game and getting all 5 endings, I played the beginning of NieR Automata, and there's some things that certainly can be said. The controls are identical. Picking up NieR Automata right after finishing this game felt like I was playing a direct continuation. It's funny how Platinum really streamlined the gameplay of the original game, and now this remaster really streamlines the original combat using NieR Automata as the example. So it feels really solid and fast-paced, and nothing really locks you to anything. You can basically act out of everything, which is always the sign of a good combat system, especially in a single-player action game. Literally the only difference between this game and NieR Automata's combat now is that NieR Replicant has a block and you can parry, and in NieR Automata you parry by dodging at the right time instead of blocking at the right time, and that's the only difference. It seriously feels like I was playing the same game. There's still a lot of dated stuff here for the gameplay that you can't address with simply controls. It has potential, but it's just so simple. The combat in NieR in general is very simple, but it's meant to be that way so that you can just get through the game. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely some fun to be had with the combat, and it's not too boring or anything, it's just not that engaging. But anyways, the second biggest concern you'll probably have coming from Automata is the pacing. The beginning of this game is very, very slow. You'll be running back and forth between a few towns, doing stereotypical RPG fetch quests, fishing games, you know the whole drill. Although in some areas the progression of this game definitely feels like padding, and the fetch quests right away feel very abrasive because it's very video game fetch quests. But there's a reason to this slow pacing. Unlike Automata, where you start off as an android coming from a colony of space to Earth to destroy alien robots, the story in NieR Replicant starts off as a much more personal one. NieR Replicant follows the young boy NieR, who lives in one of the last villages of humanity, pushed back by creatures called shades that have been destroying more and more of humanity as time goes on. As if things couldn't get bad enough for humans, there's also a deadly plague called the Black Scroll going around. And poor little NieR, with his world already taken away from him. NieR lives alone with his little sister Yona, who he holds very dearly and is the last family member he has after his parents died of Black Scroll. Unfortunately, the last member of his family also has the disease, and that's where the game starts. You're a child doing mundane jobs or fetch quests that people give you because they feel sorry for you and your sick sister. So already the stakes are incredibly personal. And never ever look at Taro's work and take it at face value. No, these aren't fetch quests to fill out padding. They're jobs for poor little NieR's survival. These side quests are by far the most dated part of this game, but I highly suggest you do them. You could literally do a fetch quest that's like, hey, go get me some apples, and then some stuff happens and you end up here.
The scene fills me with an unfamiliar sense of calm. Just a happy family gathered around the table. It feels so very normal. I never thought I'd feel this way again. So I stuff my face with the great feast before me, hoping it helps to hide the tears welling in my eyes.
And just when you start to feel some hope or emotion, oh my god, does this game twist a knife in your heart. That clip I just showed was at the end of a side quest, and one of the main quest lines of this game that involved the characters of that random ass side quest of collecting apples or some crap plays a pivotal role in telling a existential tale about humanity. And it's like every sub character that looks like a Sonic 06 NPC can just make you feel these emotions that are like, wow, how is this happening from a video game? There was like 2 times in this game where I put down my controller and some random thing from a side quest that I was just doing where I was like, they really made it that dark. There's no way the story just went there. It's horrifically beautiful. It's the art of despair and storytelling. And it's all so well done. I was just binging the game to get to the story, and I was like, no wonder why there's multiple light novels made from the NieR series. But did you know that this game is also a light novel? Yes, there are multiple parts in this game where I was recording, so I saw it took me 40 minutes to read some of these areas, or these parts. And even then, what could have been the biggest gripe, how could you force a player to read a light novel in the middle of a game, proved to be another moment that was incredibly engaging, well written, and again, the music just makes everything in this game. I felt myself getting lulled away reading. And that's where I have to give utmost praise to this game. Yes, the gameplay and gameplay mechanics are lackluster and very much cookie cutter generic examples of other games that do ideas better. The gameplay is such a genre humping game that I think it's honestly self-aware. Even though Sato, the publisher at Square Enix for this game, couldn't give the biggest budget originally, the way the writing is done to not only make some funny excuse to justify what's clearly probably just a budget save, but also make it engaging. And that's where I have to give this game the utmost props, because it's the same thing why I give so many retro games praise. Taking something to almost the maximum potential given the constraints of your project. Like in retro games where a lot of the stuff had to be left to your imagination. In NieR Replicant, instead of animating something, just throw in a short story, but then still have that be a standout moment of the game because of its presentation and world building. So credit where credit is due with regards to the game design. So this being a remaster of an 11-year-old game, what's new? Well, there's a complete graphics and gameplay overhaul. Now almost all the dialogue in the entire game is voice acted. Every single NPC, even the ones that don't give you quests or anything, are all voice acted. There's also a whole additional boss sub-story and another ending that I felt fit the world completely. And I didn't even know that the seafront boss was additional content because the writing was so good. Well, that's because it's all canon. It's all from the light novel Grimoire NieR. So that's already a big enough reason for you to check out this game if you're a fan of the original. I will say a big gripe of mine with the additional storytelling is that it all fleshes out Kaine even more, who's already such a deep character. And I just wish that it gave a like small story to Emil. There's not enough Emil stories in this game. Yeah, that's right. That's my biggest complaint. There's not enough Emil in this game. Again, I cannot recommend this game enough. If you're a fan of medium that touches on themes of hope and despair and humanity, oh my god, does this deliver. Wow, does this deliver. If you're gonna do the fetch quest to fully flesh out the world, mostly just follow a guide. A lot of it is just material farming and sometimes it's pretty cryptic. So if you're wasting a lot of time and you want to just do a side quest to see what happens, then yeah, just like follow a guide. It hasn't aged the best, so don't waste a lot of your time. Speaking of time, if you were to get to the first 2 endings of this game, yeah, big surprise, this game has multiple endings through multiple playthroughs. If you know the NieR series or the Drakengard series, then you know, what do you expect? But yeah, to do the first 2 endings, which is the majority bulk of the actual story, I'd say it'd only take you like 15 hours if you were just going straight through. To get all 5 endings, it took me about 35 to 40 hours. So not an insanely long game, but that's great that if you rush through, it's really short, because then it means that I can recommend this game enough to at least people to just check out the main story, and then you'll see why this game is so special. And then maybe you'll want to start a new save file to flesh out the characters and go back and do all those stupid fishing quests. But yeah, I will absolutely never forget this game. There's only a few pieces of media that really have made me feel such strong emotions, and this game will now forever come to my mind when I think about some of the best fictional stories I've went through. And honestly, I gotta say, it's a kind of a lot more subtle with its themes than playing the beginning of NieR Automata, where NieR Automata was right away obvious, like, maybe we're not doing the best thing here. So I do appreciate the subtlety, but it's at the cost of the story pacing. If you're okay with a slower unraveling story that builds upon itself and then absolutely truly delivers, please just go play this game, guys. Go check it out. Holy fuck, go check it out. Finally, there's some challenge mode, which I think was DLC for the original game. You enter this challenge mode by reading NieR's mother's diary, who writes about her husband, Father NieR. And with zero context, this is bizarre, but we're talking about Yoko Taro here. Funny segue. NieR in Japan had 2 versions. NieR Replicant for the PS3, and NieR Gestalt for the 360. NieR Gestalt was the only version that got an international release just titled NieR. So yes, NieR Replicant is a remake of the Japanese PS3 version of this game specifically. I find it hilarious that in these sections they reference the old lighting style, with turning the contrast all the way up and making it more gritty. Another complaint I see about this remaster is that the lighting is a little too clean and it takes out a lot of the grit. So they said, well, there you go, it's in this challenge mode. You like it now? And the music, what the hell? They massacred my boy. They took these masterful compositions and made EDM remixes of them? Damn, Father NieR really got the shaft in this game. Cast to a gross high contrast lighting, terrible EDM remix dimension, not even playable in the main story. Now that is truly the darkest thing seen in this game.
You look like shit.